What if your business could flow with your feminine body? What if there was a way to rest and slow down without feeling guilty about it? In today's episode, I'm joined by Usha of Woman Wellness. Usha is an incredible educator that merges science with Eastern philosophy and Eastern medicine. I actually personally took one of her courses that have changed my life when I was going through my fibroids journey, absolutely burnt out and running my business from a very masculine way, like a lot of women entrepreneurs out there are. We are going to redefine productivity for our feminine body and unlock ways of working that feel natural, spacious, and of course, vivacious and sustainable. So if you've ever felt guilty, put your hands up if you've ever felt guilty for resting. This episode is going to be for you because we need to slow down as women in order for us to create. The more we slow down and the more we rest, the better is our output, contrary to popular belief and everything we've been told we need to follow. Hey, welcome back to my show, Seen, Known, Paid. I'm your host, Marina, and this is the show where I help you build your most magnetic personal brand on and off social media so that you don't have to sell your soul or follow corporate marketing BS to attract dream clients and live life on your own terms. Hi, Usha. Welcome.
Hi, Marina. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. It feels really surreal because a few years back, you literally saved my life. I'm not even exaggerating, but you had come into my life at a time where I felt lost, sick, not at my best. And your course that I took at that time, I think it was called Breathing, Bleeding. Sorry, I forgot the
Breathing, bleeding.
breathing.
Okay, BBB we call it. It's a long
That's
name.
how I would refer to it. Yes, and that has actually also changed the way that I run my business, how I manage my energy, and really put me on this whole route of like feminine productivity. And I know this, a lot of the people who are listening, they really need to reset the way that they run their businesses so that they can create more time for the things that they love doing, but also show up from a place of spaciousness. So I would love for you to walk us through the different phases of our menstrual cycle and what that means for us as women, especially women in business.
Yes, thank you. So, if we pull back and look at male versus female physiology, we see that we are largely living in a world created with
Mhm.
male physiology in mind. So, the 9 to 5 workday, working 5 days a week, this is a system that was created not with women in
Mhm.
mind, but tailored to male physiology. And so if anyone's listening and they feel like, they feel guilty when they're resting, like they always have to grind it out, push through, like they're just staring at a screen and don't know what to do with their work sometimes, there's a reason for that.
Mm,
And you're not broken, there's not something wrong with you.
yeah.
It's just that you're trying to be in a system that wasn't created with your thrival in
Mhm.
mind. So, the way that our physiology works as women, men are solar, meaning that they're consistent. They
Mm,
get a release of testosterone in the morning that gives them motivation. That happens pretty consistently every day. And women are not solar, we are lunar. So, just like how the
yeah.
moon goes through phases, we as women also go through phases. And these phases I teach as the seasons.
Mhm.
So, just like how Mother Earth has seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, we too, as women, because we are a reflection of nature, have these seasons also. But our seasons are smushed into one lunar month, which is around 28 to 29 and a half days. And this is our infradian rhythm, or our menstrual cycle. And so, what I'm going to do right now, just that little intro,
Love
is
it.
I'm going to go through the 4 phases. I'll start first at menstruation. So, menstruation, which is the release of the endometrium lining, it's that blood you get hopefully every month when you're fertile. That is inner winter. So, inner winter is all about
Mm-hmm.
resting, reflecting, coming inwards. It is that period of renewal where we are literally shedding everything physically, emotionally, spiritually that has happened in the past
Yeah.
month or cycle, and releasing it out of our body. So it's a deeply reflective time, a time for cleansing, a time for going inward. Traditionally, hopefully this lasts 3 to 7 days long, depending on your unique cycle. So that's the first phase, menstruation, inner winter. And then, just like how nature goes into spring, we also shift into
Mm-hmm.
spring. And this is your follicular phase, or inner spring. Depending on your cycle, this will last 6 to 10 days long. And this is a time when estrogen starts to rise. So it's a period of refreshment. We get refreshed, enhanced motivation, refreshed creativity, refreshed resilience to stress. So, our resilience to stress here is actually increased, meaning we can handle
Mm.
more, whether it's at work, whether it's in our relationship. Our capacity is greater during this time due to increased
Wow.
estrogen. And then we shift into inner summer. So spring goes into summer, and this is our most fertile
Mm.
phase. It's called ovulation. It lasts around 3 to 4 days, that period of heightened fertility. And this is when estrogen reaches its peak. So I'm guessing that you're probably around ovulation right now if you're feeling
Yeah.
sexier, prettier, and recording during
Mm-hmm.
this time. And that's great, because this is our period of feeling the most open to giving and receiving love. This is when we are heightened, when we're really fertile. So we are interacting with the world, we're sharing with the world. We feel good in our bodies. Our skin is plump and juicy, our eyes are bright. And then we have a big shift.
Mm-hmm.
So, just like how in summer, at the end of summer, which we're approaching right now as we record this, the wind is starting to shift. It's starting to change. It's kind of like a cool breeze that's approaching. That same shift is happening internally as we move into inner autumn, which is the luteal phase, or the premenstrual phase. This lasts for 10 to 14 days long. So, this is the longest phase of your entire cycle. And this is a time where we go from estrogen dominance, which makes us excited to engage with the world, really focused on tending and mending to our relationships, tending and mending, fixing our business, focusing on it. And now we go into progesterone dominance. So estrogen falls, another sex hormone called progesterone comes into play. And this makes us really inwardly
Mm.
focused. So this is a time when we feel reflective, we feel creative. We're also, I like to say, drinking truth serum.
Oh.
So we have a really hard time holding in uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
truths. And the reason why is because our resilience to stress also shifts during this time. So estrogen makes us more resilient. And as estrogen falls, we become more sensitive to stress during our premenstrual time. And then we shift back. The cycle begins again. We bleed, progesterone falls, we come into inner winter, and the
Mm.
whole cycle begins. So these are kind of the 4 distinct phases: menstruation, inner winter, follicular phase, inner spring, ovulation, inner summer, and the premenstrual time, inner fall.
Mm. So we're not really crazy right before our
No,
period.
no, we're not.
Hormonally.
I like to say you're not crazy. You're an oracle. You're knowing
Mm.
everything that's going on the inside. You're deeply connected to your intuition.
I love that. And this is one of the biggest shifts that I also learned from, being in your course and learning from you, is to reframe the idea that my like premenstrual phase is me is crazy, like I'm just a crazy woman and like like I cannot even control my emotions or anything. And I started to use this actually differently in my business. And I like to use it to get really honest about what's not working and what's working. That's when I do, like, also when I edit, like if I'm doing a sales page, for example, that's when I love to like edit it, remove any fluff. That's when I like to have a little bit of hard conversations, to be honest, because like I'm ready to have those conversations. I don't shy away from the truth. But that brings me to like, how do you use these four distinct phases, and with knowing now that our hormones are actually changing, so there's like a physiological thing that is happening to our businesses, to align our businesses to these changes, in order for us to feel productive, be productive, without feeling guilty because we need to bleed, like, oh, here's my period again. Yeah.
Great question. So if we look at the cycle, I like to kind of split it up into two groups. So one group is the first phases, which is inner spring and inner summer. And these phases are estrogen
Okay.
dominant. And then I split it up into another phase, which is inner fall and inner winter, which are either progesterone dominant or lower in
Mhm.
all the hormones. So in the estrogen dominant phase, inner spring, inner fall, inner spring, inner summer, follicular and ovulation, I like to use this for high level
Mhm.
planning. So estrogen gives us a refreshed outlook. It's like, on the last few days of your cycle, estrogen is already starting
Mhm.
to rise. So that day one bleeding when you first get your period feels really different than day four. And you're already starting to kind of open up to the world and think about, oh, maybe life is possible to live. Maybe I do kind of like it here. Maybe things are, opportunities are going to come. It's like the
Mhm.
outlook is just very different because of the um the amount of estrogen we have in our system. So when we're estrogen dominant, this is a great time for high level planning, for moving big projects forward, to going out, mapping things out, looking at your calendar, figuring out what it is you want, setting deep intentions, and doing some of the brunt work to really get that project where you want it to go. This is also a great time to start new
Mhm.
relationships. So, if you have networking or people you need to reach out to, this is a great time to do it because naturally in your body, you're going to be more open to tending and mending and nurturing those relationships during this time. This is also a really important time to prioritize
Mhm.
self care. And the reason I say this is because, I have been building my business personally for almost 10 years now. And I used to use this part of my cycle to just grind. It's like, I have the
Yeah.
capacity, let's do it. And if we really
Mhm.
grind during this part of our cycle, we're going to pay for it in the latter
Mm.
part. So, if anyone who's listening has a really hard premenstrual time, painful periods, irregular cycles, one of the things that you may want to do is prioritize more self care when you are estrogen dominant. So, that could look like just taking 10-minute naps during the day, closing your eyes, putting on a meditation video, even at the office, at work. Could look like going for a little walk every day outside, getting a massage. We all have different definitions of self care, but really prioritizing that during this phase can help you stabilize. Because one thing that I want all women who are listening to hear is that men and women are different. One of my teachers, Dr. Claudia Welch, says that men need to create in order to rest.
Mm.
Women need to rest in order to create.
Yes.
And so maybe if you're listening, you've had an experience where you've taken a nap, you've been so overwhelmed, you take a nap, you wake up, it's
Yeah.
clear. Or you come back from vacation and you are so on it and you're getting through things so quickly. Women need that rest and relaxation in order to be the most productive.
Mm.
And I think one of the things I see with women is that we're grinding so much when we're estrogen dominant that we pay for it a lot later in the
Mm.
month. So, estrogen dominance, this is a refresh time. This is when I plan. This is when I move big projects ahead. This is when I get creative and imaginative as to what is possible. And then when I'm progesterone dominant, when I'm in inner winter as well, this is a time where I review. Just like you said, you review your sales pages. That's so great. This is a time where I have hard talks with my business partner where I'm like, look, this process is not working. We need to shift this. This
Mm-hmm.
is not working. We need to make a change. Because as you said, I don't shy away from the truth during
Mm-hmm.
this time. So the beautiful thing about being premenstrual is that your capacity is lower. And that is beautiful because it shows you exactly what your major stressors
Oh,
are.
yes. Yes. They show themselves. It's like
Yeah,
what is not working will make itself apparent.
exactly. And this is the time. And,
Mm-hmm.
how different is it when you're like, I believe my body, I believe
Mm-hmm.
myself versus I'm just a crazy hormonal premenstrual
Yes.
woman. And that can really hold us back in our business. And I'll tell you, I did that for years. I shamed
Mm.
myself. I was like, you're just overwhelmed. You're being ridiculous. And now I'm finally making those changes in my business that I had wanted to make for years. And it's so beneficial. So believe yourself when you're premenstrual. If there are things that are stressing you out here, they're probably stressful during your entire
Yes.
cycle. You just have different capacity when you're
Oh
estrogen
my
dominant.
God. I mean, this, if there's anything like you'll take away from this session, it's this part because this truly was the shift for me when I started to believe when these annoyances were come up and they would be exaggerated during the time before my period, and I'd be like, why is this now kind of just irritating me more? Why is this person, it happens a lot with people too, why is this person like
Yeah.
not a vibe anymore? Like when I thought that it's okay, or like, yeah, I want to collaborate with this person. Now I'm like, no, I don't. Or they really don't add anything to my business or to my life, even in my personal relationships. And I'm like, okay, I need to listen more to what's coming up during that time and actually take the wisdom of my body, as you said, seriously. And that's when our body, I feel like, talks the loudest. But then, I mean, that
Mm.
puts me in another question. I know we're not done with like how to use the phases, but I want to like drop a pin here of like, how do we even listen to what's happening during that time? Is there practice that we can do?
That's a great question. So I'll answer
Mm-hmm.
that as I go through the phases. So this is that time, you said you're editing sales pages, you're having difficult
Right.
conversations. This is the time for
Mm-hmm.
reflection, for what's working. It's like estrogen, we're taking care of everyone else. Progesterone, we're taking care of ourselves and our inner circle. And you can think about it physiologically. Estrogen dominant time is like, I got to get pregnant. I got to get pregnant. I got to go around, make sure everything's okay. I got to get pregnant. And progesterone dominance is like, maybe I am pregnant.
Mm.
So now I need to take care of myself, take care of my inner
Wow.
life. And so this is that time for reflection. And as we move into menstruation, it's that
Mm-hmm.
purging. All the things that weren't working, we're letting them go through our blood. We're letting them go through literally releasing tissue in our
Mm-hmm.
body. So this is like that rebirth. One of my teachers says every 28 to 29 days, which is the period of a moon cycle, a woman gets a new
Wow.
body. And so you can think about that we're just rejuvenating. And so a practice that we can use during this time is I really like to encourage women to journal when they're
Mm-hmm.
premenstrual. And then go back when you are estrogen dominant and look at what wasn't working. And maybe you didn't have the time or the energy or the spaciousness to actually make those
Mm-hmm.
changes. And if you look back at your journal, you can implement them when you are estrogen dominant and have the stress resilience to do so. So, daily journaling on what's not working, on how you're feeling, this can help you identify patterns to things. Okay, I'm looking back on my last 3 cycles. This is consistently coming up for me. So I know that this is a theme, for women here who are like, but I got to be logical. I got to be pragmatic. It's like, great. Then journal every time you're premenstrual and then see how actually there's usually
Mm-hmm.
patterns that arise for you. And I think that this is why women in business actually have such a superpower because having a womb is like going on a psychedelic shamanic journey, just because of the hormonal experience that we have. We get to interact with all of these different ways of being and connect with our intuition. So that means we get to collapse timelines and have the opportunity to make really big moves. And maybe these moves don't have to be based on just pure logic. Maybe we can create a relationship with our bodies where we believe our intuition enough to actually implement it into our business. And that's where I think women in business just have such an
Yes.
advantage, because we do have a cycle and we do have these different cyclical ways of being that we get to experience every
And
month.
we have the freedom to design our schedule to align with our cycle, with the wisdom of our bodies, instead of grinding like in a system, as you said at the beginning, Usha, a system created for men, the 24-hour cycle. Wake up, grind,
Yes.
go to sleep, rest, create, and then rest instead of, as you said, rest to create. And when you said that, it hit me because I recently started hosting in person retreats. So I did two this
Oh,
year. Yes, so excited. Like I did one in Mexico and one in Greece. And I'm doing my third one in Egypt at the end of the year. And what I've noticed as a thread in the first two that I did was that the women came, usually the women that come to me, they're high achievers, they're successful, they've hit like multiple six figures, whatever. And they've done that through grinding because that's what we've been taught. You know, grind like a man and then eventually maybe take a little break, but you're so burnt out that you can't even rest. Your mind is just like on override. And that's when I noticed that the most creative women end up losing this like luster, this joy, this spark. And they end up showing up in a way, like in their content and presence and with their clients, in a way that is a shell of who she is. And what I noticed was the biggest shift when these women would come to the retreat was there's a lot of rest, and I call it productive rest. So you're resting,
mm.
but actually, as you're resting, you're creating.
Great marketing there. Great marketing.
Thank you. Approved. Um, and with this productive rest, look, the biggest thing I would hear after is that they've downloaded the idea for their next offer. And it didn't come from them sitting there on their laptops or creating more content or doing more strategy. That is like the masculine way, which we need. But after you receive this idea, you can take that, pair it up with a really good strategy, maybe even hire someone to help you with that. And you become this beautiful creator of your business, and that leads the way instead of like I gotta grind and then rest, and that's how you create. And I love that you said that. And truly I love saying that your next big move won't happen until you rest. And I believe in this because I do it myself. Like the example that you gave of a nap, like oh my god, earlier today I was like I can't. I was fighting with Kajabi. I'm switching to Kajabi and I'm like, do I want to do this? I'm fighting with it. And I was like, you know what? I'm so tired. I'm just going to go nap. And I woke up and I was like, I had realizations about what I want to do next. And I was like, okay, now I have a little action plan. But I couldn't push through it. And there were times I remember where I would just push through this, like, this resistance. But I know so many women out there, they feel so guilty when they don't push through. So I don't know what you
Mm.
do, if you have any
Yeah.
tips there.
Yeah, I feel so resonant with what you're saying. I've tried to work in so many different ways. So when I first started my business, I was working very much in alignment with my cycle. It was just me on the team. I was a solo entrepreneur, so I was doing everything. And then when I brought my business online, I started to work with a business partner who's a lot more structured than I. She's like my opposite, which I
Mm-hmm.
love. And I also started to bring on a team. And when I started working with a team, I noticed that there's a lot more structure, a lot more internal pressure for me to show up the same
Mm.
way every day. And when we do that, we're not just going against our bodies, we're going against
Ah.
nature. And I want everyone to notice, if you have men in your life that you love, if you're in a relationship with a man, if you're close to men, you'll notice that the way that we're supposed to work doesn't really serve men
Mm-hmm.
either. Men need more rest than they're getting also. But all of us are pressured to go against our bodies and go
Right.
against nature. And so I always look at physiology as poetry. I think that nature is perfection, and I have dedicated my life to try to get closer to that and try to support women in doing the same. And so, as a birth worker, I've been to so many births. I've given birth at home to my daughter myself. And I think about the energy of nature very much works in these
Mhm.
surges. So there's surges of contractions that come. You're not pushing constantly when you're birthing a baby, you're pushing with a surge. You can think about that with your offers, with your business as well. It's not a constant push that births the baby. It's a listening to the wave of energy and pushing when it's at its
Mm.
peak. If you think about the ocean, there are tides that come to move and change the shape of the shore. When you think about the energy of the moon, she's constantly growing and then declining. These surges are the way that nature creates and destroys. So too are we meant to listen to the surge of creativity. It's like it peaks, we birth something, and then we retreat. And this, when we move like this, it may be a little bit slower, but it is so much more potent. And I really want to like hone
Mm.
in on what you said there of so many women losing their
Mhm.
luster, losing their vitality. And I have been in those places in my
Same.
business where it's like I'm just showing up because I
Ugh.
have to and I don't want to. And the difference of that, me grinding and putting pressure on myself to show up because I think I should, versus me doing something out of alignment, authenticity, and joy. I'll tell you that it doesn't matter how much market research I've done on my offers, it doesn't matter how well planned it is. When I move the way joy and alignment makes me
Mhm.
move, I make so much more money every
Every
single
time.
time.
Every time. True story. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I remember times during my launches when I'd be like, oh, like it's, like I gotta push, I gotta put another post out, another story. But my whole body's like, no, rest. It doesn't feel aligned. And you can hear it. Like you can feel it, you can hear it within yourself, but then you don't listen out of guilt. Like, oh, if I don't do it today, like I'm gonna lose clients. No one's gonna come. But then instead of like doing it at that time, when I started to focus my capacity when it was there instead of when it wasn't, like you, I would actually be more attractive to my ideal client because I mean,
Absolutely.
people can feel our vibes. And when we're stressed out, I mean, I know that hormonally, I don't know about the science behind this, but I'm sure there is. But like a dog that would sense our fear, like people can sense when we're stressed. I know that stress is contagious. I mean, we're doing things from a screen, but I've had people who tell me like when I'm in my most vital and most radiant, when I'm doing things from like true joy and conviction and maybe doing them while I'm like traveling somewhere that I really love. Like I remember when I was in Egypt last, and like it was my first time going back in 12 years, and that's my homeland. And I've had so many people DM me saying like, when is the next retreat in Egypt? I had not put out a retreat, but they were so in
Mm,
love with me just showing up in my truth, in my vitality, vibrancy, and they were like, you're glowing, we can feel it,
mm,
like something has shifted. But I was just so happy, and I was just sharing from that place. And then people were coming to me asking for what they want. And I think this is the biggest shift in like leading the business as a woman versus what we've been taught about how to lead our businesses that have been come down like through men mainly, and like the masculine marketing or the bro marketing way. This is like, you just almost like just channel what you're excited about, show up when you feel excited about it, and allow people to respond to that, and then give like, and you then respond back. And I feel like that's just the feminine way, right? Like we're just responding. And I don't know if you
mm.
have like a different take on this, or you agree, or you've seen that in your business, have any examples. But literally, like even my whole business was created from people saying like, how do you show up and talk about yourself and your offers in this way but not feel selfish, or like, and I was like, this is personal branding. And then that's what like moved me into personal branding for the last 5 years.
Yeah. So for me, I think that it came when I became a
Mm.
mother, things got much more heightened because not only, for me, I do feel guilty
Mm.
when I rest, even still knowing all of this. And I always say, like, we teach what we
Oh.
need to learn. And that's definitely why I'm teaching this, because I understand for people who feel guilty when they take time off, for people who feel like they're letting their team
Mm.
down or others down or the people that they work with down. But for me, it's like, after years of having trouble prioritizing myself, now I have this little being that needs the best of me. And that's where I started to make real boundaries with my work, and also started to realize that I'm not helping anyone by slowly killing myself doing something that I'm saying I love, but actually
Mm-hmm.
hate. And if you are owning your own business, yes, for me, like, yeah, I want to make money. I'm here to make money. I have to make money. I'm the provider for my family. And I'm doing this because I would do this even if I didn't get
Oh.
paid for it. And I have for years, right at the beginning. It's like, and so this is my love also. This is my life's work. And so I need to make sure that I'm in right relationship with it. And that means it needs to feed me. And
Mm.
you can tell when something is giving back to you and reciprocating, or if it is draining you. And so that's what I really want women who are listening to focus on is what shifts can you make in the way that you're working so it feels like your work is feeding you, not just
Yeah.
money, but
Mm-hmm.
energetically. It's giving you that vitality. It's like, my partner can tell when I'm on a call with my team and there's really great vibes and we're celebrating. It's like it gives you something, like it gives you juice. And it does. It makes me feel more connected to myself, more sexy, more vital, more empowered. And that's what we have the potential to access when we are living in alignment with our bodies, working in alignment with our hormones rather than fighting
Mm.
against them. So it's really important to kind of be honest with ourselves and just stop normalizing the fact that work is supposed to drain you, work is supposed to deplete you. That is what we've been taught
Right.
is normal. But what if that wasn't true? And if we open up to that possibility, then we stop gaslighting ourselves. We stop dismissing and denying ourselves. And we open up timelines where our work can be
Mm-hmm.
super nourishing. And I'm not saying that, going on Canva and designing graphics or editing a sales page, or as you said, working with Kajabi is always going to be fun. But when the greater mission is aligned and
Mm-hmm.
feeds us, we have the wherewithal to do those things that still cause friction because we're being fed by it.
Mm. Oh, so beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think a big thing here, big takeaway is that work can be beautiful. Work can feed us, and being in a relationship with the work that we're creating. And I know a lot of the women who are listening in my community, in your community, they are, I can guarantee they're women who want to lead from purpose, from and
Mm.
sharing their life's work. Like that's how I feel about living vivaciously, about this podcast, about my retreats, anything I create, it's truly coming from a deep soul place. And it's because I truly believe that more women need to live life vivaciously. And this method that you're teaching, that you shared with us today, is an essential part of beginning that journey of connecting first with your feminine way of being, of your body, your biology, and then using that to co-create with that energy instead of against it, because you want to live in a man's world. We're not doing
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
um and again, there's beautiful things about the masculine way of doing things, but not when it comes like to aligning with like with to respect to, excuse me, to a respect to our menstrual cycle, because we are humans who bleed.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think for women to just know and accept, like, the way that you make it to your goal is going to look
Mm,
different than someone who doesn't have a menstrual cycle. And if you can accept that now, that creates so much
mhm,
space for you to arrive at your goal feeling fully in yourself, feeling rested, aligned. So many of us, I'm sure, have grinded and then reached our goal and felt so tired and depleted by the time
mhm.
we got there that we're like, was it even worth it anyway?
Right.
So, what if it's possible to actually live in alignment with your body the entire time so that you reach your goal and you are alive, you are nourished, you are present and actually able to celebrate rather than so depleted that you have to take time off in order to chart the next path. And that's something that I really want to attune us to here is in our modern world, which focuses so much on going fast, we have to play the long game. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to burn out next year. I don't
Mhm.
want to burn out in 5 years. I want my business to steadily and sustainably grow as I do. And that means that I have to listen to my body in those micro moments where it is asking for a nap, where it is asking for a walk, where it is asking for food. Us taking care of ourselves every day is going to pay off in the long run with interest.
Investment. It is an investment. Taking care of
Exactly.
yourself is an
Yes.
investment. So, if we were to get a little bit technical here, I'm curious about when you launch, because a
Mm.
lot of the women listening, they have offers that they launch, myself included, and I want to know, how would you use what you've shared with us so far about the four different distinct phases with your launch? Like, if you were to launch over, I mean, I don't know if you launch over a month or like you have longer runways. I love longer runways. Like, usually my retreat launches are like at least 6 months. 9 is ideal, which is like baby time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What about you? So tell me a little bit about how you would use that.
So yeah, so I've gone through different things right now. Like I've tried out different
Mhm.
things. So what I've noticed that is very expansive for me is to do kind of like the lead up, the priming, we call it in our business, during my inner spring. So when I'm excited, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got all this energy, this new creativity. That's when I like teasing my offers, when I like putting out valuable things that will bring in interested people into our
So
community.
inner
And
spring.
then teaching when I'm
Yeah. So
inner
that's
spring.
right
Yes,
after your
that's that
period.
estrogen. Exactly. So, right when the blood of your period stops, inner spring begins. And this is when I love to prime my audience. And then I love to teach a class. So, usually to introduce my offers into the world, even if they're evergreen pre recorded offers, I like to do a live class because as a teacher, that's where I feel like
Mm.
people can get the best felt sense of what I'm like and what it could be like to learn with me. And so doing this when I'm ovulating is very expansive. It's like I could be on that call for hours. Let's talk, let's flirt, let's have a party. It's like I'm all about it. So planning that big launch event when I'm ovulating is always very expansive. And then actually going into the selling when I'm premenstrual also seems to work pretty well. I'll be honest, when I'm premenstrual, I really think about throwing my phone off of a bridge into a lake and running away from society forever. So, because I know that about myself, I often pre plan my sales posts, I pre plan things so that I have less on
Mhm.
my plate when I am premenstrual. And then we close cart when I'm menstruating. That release of the last month, that beginning of the new menstruation is both a closing and a beginning.
Mhm.
And so that really works for me. I have also played around with doing an event when I'm right at the beginning of my premenstrual phase And this is what I'll share. So I used to create content a lot when I was estrogen dominant. So when I was in inner spring follicular phase, in inner summer ovulating. And this was like a great time to do it because you want to create content, you feel more beautiful, you're more open, etc. But I actually love creating content and launching when I'm premenstrual also because I'm really fucking honest
Mm.
at that. And so I have no problem telling people, actually, this is not the right course for you. I would recommend this person or that one. I have
Mhm.
no problem telling it like it is when I'm recording content, when I'm on podcasts, when I'm, recording videos. And so I also have really been enjoying recording and launching when I'm premenstrual as well, because it's a different quality that comes out during that time. But if I'm doing that, then I'm really practicing self care a
Mhm.
lot during the first phases of my cycle so that I'm not so depleted and tired by the time I reach that premenstrual phase. So I open my calendar at the beginning of every month and I look at what's planned and I align it with my cycle. And then I reach out to my project manager and I'm
Mhm.
like, hey, I have calls every single day this week. I'm not going to be able to write anything because I'm premenstrual and I'm lower capacity. So I let my team know what's possible for me based on my cycle, and I tailor and edit it based on what I know to be true for me. And each one of us is different. And that's why knowing your body and starting to track your cycle is so helpful, because every one of us will have a little variation of like, actually, I feel most creative when I'm premenstrual, or, we'll have our own personal experience of each of the phases. And that's what makes us so unique and gives us the opportunity to actually tailor what we do to our
Mm.
bodies. So that's like a little overview of how I do it and how I've been playing with it recently.
That's so cool. As you were speaking, I had an aha moment because I teach women how to show up more vulnerably and true to themselves. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what if like the task was to show up during your premenstrual saying it like it is? And there's a trend going
Mm.
around now that's like as a social media man, like something if I wasn't afraid to hurt your feeling, this is what I would say. Or here's the advice I would give you if I wasn't afraid to hurt your feelings. And I feel that's so like premenstrual coded, like
Mm.
all over.
Absolutely.
And I would even give this to the listeners right now. Like maybe try it out. Like look at your calendar and plan out those like more vulnerable or like just like truth hitting, just straight to the facts kind of posts around that time, whether that's a podcast episode or a reel or a live or something like that. Like maybe that's when you want to test out those because you will have maybe less resistance to the truth and you'd be more willing to say it like it is instead of like when you're like feeling all pretty and like, oh my God, I love everyone and the world is great and so many opportunities, and you're creating more of that type of content during the phases that are prior, so your spring and summer. um I don't know what it is, but like I've noticed in the last couple of summers that I've had, so like my ovulation time, I have needed a lot more naps. And it was
Mm.
like a bit alarming that I was like, do I need to get blood like blood work done or what? Because like I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be so energetic and I can even feel my ovulation. Like I'm very connected to my body now. Again, thanks to your course. And like learning from you, like I feel like I've developed this deep connection with my body that I know when I'm ovulating. I've been tracking it, all the things, but then I've been feeling a little bit tired, and I'm kind of in my mind connecting that to like maybe I was like I've been going hard, like doing the whole like, oh my God, let me leverage this energy, that the few
Yes.
days when I am ovulating, I'm just like so exhausted. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
intuitive sense. So I remember when I first like really started planning out my business for my cycle, I am a very much a
Mhm.
go-getter, like let's do it, let's go. I'm sure a lot of women who are listening are too. And so I was doing
Mhm.
exactly that. I was like, these are the times when I can be most productive. Let's leverage that energy, let's use it. But here's the thing, if you are depleting your energy so much when you stop bleeding, when you're in inner spring, you might not reach the threshold of estrogen needed in order to ovulate, because our stress hormones and our sex hormones compete with one another. So if you're putting so much on your plate that you're stressed out and you're taxed and you're overloaded, yes, you are in your inner spring, but that cortisol and adrenaline is going to draw
Mhm.
energy away from your estrogen and progesterone and take that energy that you're supposed to be spending on being vital and feeling good and alive as a woman and put it towards stress and survival. So our body will always choose and prioritize survival over thrival. So if you are stretching your capacity and maxing yourself out, our body will interpret that as stress. It will interpret that as
Mhm.
survival, and it will switch gears, starting to focus on how do I just maintain rather than how do I thrive and grow. So that's why I mentioned it's really important to still pace yourself and focus on self care. And one of the things that I noticed for myself years ago, because I was doing that exact thing, was I'm not saving. Estrogen is a juicy hormone. It gives us juice. It gives us moisture. It plumps up our tissues. It builds the energy in our body. And I realized as soon as I was getting that energy from my hormone system, I was spending it right
Mhm.
away. It's like I'd finished bleeding. I was getting that estrogen. I was like, yes, I have so many things I want to use this on. Can't wait. And then I was depleting my tanks
Mhm.
right away. So I still want you to keep some of that energy for yourself.
Mm.
Instead of spending it all on the offers, all in the business, hold some back for yourself. Because if you don't have some reserves, then when you're premenstrual, you're going to go into
Mhm.
debt. And you're going to get the frustration, the anger, the insomnia, the decreased stress resilience. And so holding some of that back for yourself, using that energy, spending it on what you love, hobbies, things that bring you life that aren't necessarily focused on business, that's a really important balance that we need to find when we do have that
Oh, that
energy.
makes a lot of sense for me because the last few months have been like in between apartments and looking to get a new lease. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I've definitely been more in like survival mode because it's like when you're like looking for a new home, I feel like that instantly just puts you there. So, that makes a lot of sense. So,
Definitely.
thank you for sharing that. Okay, so if there is someone who's listening who doesn't get a cycle for whatever reason, like postpartum, hormonal birth control, menopause, whatever it is, how can they still like leverage this, like what we've talked about today in their business and to live with their inner seasons?
So, for women who are not currently bleeding for whatever reason, I always recommend to look to the moon as your kind
Mm.
of true north, as your guide for a way to create in alignment with nature in a cyclical way that allows you to be more productive without getting burnt out. And that's something I want to mention before I go into this in more detail, that everyone who's listening, what Marina and I are talking about is not how to slow down and be less productive. You're actually more
Mhm.
productive when you work this way. You'll rest more and get more done from a place of alignment because you're harnessing your natural windows of creativity and knowing how to align with those periods where you're supposed to produce more and align with those periods where you're supposed to rest more. So we can do that too with the moon. So you would use the new moon, the dark moon, the time when the moon is dark in the sky as your inner winter. So this is a time of rest, reflection. This is a great great time to journal, a great time to sleep more, a great time to say no thanks to going out with friends. This is an inward time of rebirth and reflection. This is also a time when really important insights can come through. Like you said, you woke up from a nap and you just knew what you wanted to do. This is like that period of rest at the new moon. And then the moon starts to get lighter, fuller in the sky. You can treat this as your inner
Mm-hmm.
spring. This is a period of refreshment, of renewal, new possibilities, planning. When the moon reaches her fullest point in the sky and reaches the full moon, this is your point of ovulation, your inner summer. This is the peak of creativity, peak of energy. You know it. You're wired in bed during the full moon. You're like, what's going on? The energy is intense. That's the full
Yeah.
moon time. And then the moon starts to get darker once again. She returns to her new moon state. And in that period of getting darker, this is your premenstrual time. So, this is the time where you reflect what has happened in the past month that I want to look back on and learn from. What are lessons that I've learned that I need to implement and integrate into my business? What are some hard conversations that I need to approach and have so that I can make the changes I need to make in order to birth the things I want to birth? And then again, we arrive at the new moon, so we get that period of reflection. So that's what I recommend. New moon being menstruation, full moon being ovulation. So we can still move in a cyclical way, knowing that rest is coming, knowing that a period of production is coming, but still honor our cyclical nature.
That's beautiful. And if you're into astrology, you could even take that a step further and like use your
Mm.
own personal new moon. This is something I've learned from the woman who does my astrology as well. Like this is like taking up another notch. I use both the moon and my cycle. So what I've learned is that when the moon goes back to my natal moon, that's like my personal new moon. So that's when I can start planting new seeds. So for me, I'm an Aries moon, and we just had the moon in Aries, and that's when I planted seeds for a new like IG Stories masterclass that I want to do. And I was so excited about it. It
Mm.
felt so aligned because it was coming from this like Aries energy. And yeah, like and if you maybe use the moon in your 10th house, like that's when it's at the top of your chart. That's your personal like full moon in a way. So it's also another way, if you're into astrology, to use that
I love
to
that.
take it up a notch and align with the cosmos. Usha, this has been so good. I want to wrap it up with, if there was one thing the woman who's listening to this could take away from this conversation, what would it be? What would you like be like shaking her and telling her like you need to know this and start doing it now?
Mhm. The first thing
Hey,
that
welcome
comes
back
up
to
is you're
Seen,
not
Known,
broken.
Paid. I'm your
There is
host,
another
Marina Gerges.
way, and your body is trying to guide you home. So instead of grinding against it or feeling at war with it, what if you returned to yourself and actually listened?
Yes.
Because she's always talking to you and she just wants you to believe her.
She wants you to believe her. Yeah, that voice within, that wisdom that's coming from deep inside. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're wired with it. We came with it. That's so beautiful, so juicy. Thank you for sharing that and using our natural menstrual cycle, how our body works, is such a beautiful tool to even take that a step further, or the moon or nature, just being one with our nature and with the environment that we live in, just takes that even a step further. And I'm just so grateful for the work that you do, because it helps a lot of women. It has helped me a lot, and I'm going to leave all the links in the description for people to connect with you, work with you. And I'm just truly grateful that you keep sharing this work with women, and women like me get to take it and run with it and create incredible, feminine and aligned businesses. And a reminder again that this is not about being lazy or slowing down. This is about actually moving faster and moving from alignment, but without burning out, by honoring
Mm.
your feminine nature. It's feminine productivity.
So thank
Mm.
you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Marina, and thank you for sharing this with women who are building their businesses. This is such a revolutionary way of moving through the world, and I just hope that anyone listening, giving yourself that permission to actually implement it and move the way that alignment wants you to move.
Thank you, Usha. And for everyone listening, anything you need is going to be in the description below. My links, Usha's links. So let's stay connected. Thank you for being here. And until next time, stay vivacious. Hey, welcome back to Seen, Known, Paid. I'm your host, Marina Gergen.